Welcome one and all, it's time for more lockdown hobby time, and I believe we're up to day 23 of this non-stop solid wall of hobby action in your face. So we've got the Hellfane out again today, and he's knocking things over with his mighty horn, which is a preview of things to come on the battlefield, no doubt. Not only within the rules of the game, but also just because he's so big, he's going to hang off his base and just take things out left, right, and centre. So, we're going to be painting lava veins today. And the veins you will have seen on some of my previous models in the army, if you've seen any of my golems, or perhaps the hex caster, they have these lava veins running through the rock that makes up their bodies. Now, I've got the white here, and then I've got this Citadel Shade Cassandora yellow. You might think, why not just dive straight in there with a yellow instead and just paint it in yellow if that's the plan? However, I would consider you a fool if that was what you said, because yellow seems to have very terrible coverage over black, and I found that in fact it often turns green, which is not what we're looking for at all. And this white here has a much better coverage, and then this over the top of it will turn it yellow. So there is that question answered immediately. So that's going to be the main bulk of what we're doing today. There's a lot to get to on this guy. A lot of places that these veins are going to go into, and there are a lot of possible locations for the veins as well, so I'm just going to have to pick and choose to make sure they're not all too close together and too crowded, and basically use my imagination a bit and see what kind of patterns I want with the lava, because there's so many wrinkles on this. You could just cover pretty much the whole thing in lava and it would still look like it was supposed to be there, but that's not what we're going for. So we don't want to cover every single little wrinkle. We're just going to pick out either the deepest ones or any that look like it would make a nice shape. Very exciting. So, what else have we been doing lately? Well, these two guys are totally finished now, apart from their bases. I've applied some more of the green slime to them after the matte varnish may have dulled the slime around the mouth a bit. What's the optimal focus range for his face? Let's see. There you go. Look at that lovely slime coming out of his mouth there. And this guy, does he have the same optimal range for focusing? There you go. He's got slime oozing out of his mouth right into his beard as well. So plenty of ooze on those two. We just need to make some bases for them. But today it's all about the Fane, the Hellfane to be precise. So let's get the lid off the wet palette. And I think we've actually got a bit of white in there already. That's wet from yesterday. So before we do that, in fact, I'm going to take this brush here and I'm going to put another layer of silver onto these back plates. Let's tilt the camera up a little bit. There you go, you should be able to see what I'm doing a bit better now. These back plates here are going to require a few little coats. Let's get the lights from the phone pointing at this as well to make it a bit brighter. I think people will appreciate that. So, tucking that in there. And there we go, a nice bright blinding light. So this silver from yesterday, it looks like it started separating a bit on the wet palette. I'm just going to give it a bit of a mix. Metallic colours can be a little bit volatile, can't they? And I'm going to do another layer on here. I'm not sure how many layers it's going to require. This paint is quite thin. And then we're going to move on to the lava veins pretty rapidly today, which will be very exciting for all concerned. Who have we got in the chat so far? We've got Graham, we've got Brad, we've got Owen, and we've got Steve. Quite a quartet to open with. What is everyone else working on today then? Anything spicy, anything tasty, anything delicious, anything moist, tender, succulent, delectable? Perhaps something foul, disgusting, depraved, vile, vulgar, grotesque, hideous. Almost done with this bit for now. Looks like it's going to take more coats to get the silver to fully cover up the gold in the background there. So let's go to the veins. Steve says, how's the wet palette doing? Well, there's paint on here that's still wet from a few days ago. Let's just see how wet it is exactly. I was mixing up this reddy colour. Is there still any moisture in that? Looks like that's dried up now. What else did we have on here? We've got some orange here that's still got a little bit of moisture to it, I think. Only a tiny bit. Got some flesh colour here. I think we did this yesterday, so that's still nice and wet. What else have we got? Are any of these pinks still wet? Not so much the pinks. What about this purple here? That purple's still nice and wet. I don't think we used that yesterday, did we? So that's been going for a few days. And the white here as well, I was thinking of using right now, is still nice and wet as well. So the wet palette is going very well indeed, and I'm almost at the stage where I'm going to turn it round and work on the other side of it now, and it still feels nice and moist over there. So this sponge keeps that moisture in for a good, it's been a good week so far, hasn't it, since I started using this? So very impressed thus far. So I'm not going to use this brush for the veins, we want a slightly smaller one, but it's not going to be perfection, because when you're painting into crevices, there's always going to be a bit that strays. So after I've applied the white into the crevices, that's going to dry. Then I'll apply the Cassandora yellow on top of the white. And then after that, I'll go over all the areas that the paint strayed onto with black before I commence with any of the dry brushing stages after that. So there's going to be mistakes, but it doesn't really matter at this stage. As long as I don't mess up the gold too much, that's really the important thing here. Minimize how much of the gold I'm going to have to fix later, because that will be more annoying than fixing the black. Okay, let's start with this back leg here. I want to pick out some nice wrinkles in white. A nice big groove on the back of the leg there. We're going to try and trace the path of these wrinkles so they kind of connect up a bit. Not all of them have to connect, but it's going to be nice if some of them do. And it's a big beastie this, so this could be quite a lengthy process. And Steve just received a 6mm order, sorting them at the moment. 6mm what? There's going to be quite a bit of white applied here. But like I said at the start, we don't just want to cover every single little wrinkle with lava, because then there'll be no rock visible, and it's very wrinkly miniature this. This is the method that I've used on all of my lava-based creatures. All the obsidian golems and the hexcaster. If anyone's ever been curious how I go about painting that lava effect on the rocks, this is it. This is going to take a while, but I'm sure it'll be very exciting. Once this part is done, it starts to look a lot more finished, even though there are still many stages to go. So you can see what I've done so far on the back. Obviously it picks out nicely because it's so different from the colour I'm going on to here. We're around the buttockle region now, which is always very exciting, obviously. Steve is putting together Ratkin, Nature and Terrain. Yeah, that 6mm Kings of War seems like it's a lot of fun, if you ask me. Get bigger armies done faster. I would certainly enjoy a smaller scale mass battle game, but I don't think there are any that can really justify my time commitment at the moment. The trick with this method here, painting into the crevices with the white first, you kind of have to know where to stop, because you could, like I said, do way too much here and there could be no visible rock at all. So it's just going around the whole model, just filling bits in until you think there's enough and using your judgment. And then hoping that you got it correct. I think my golems look alright though, so I think I've got fairly good judgment in that department. And this is a very different style from the lava effect that's used on the official Mantic Studio paint job on their Hellfane. Their guy doesn't seem to follow the actual lava pattern, or the pattern in the rock, should I say, and turn that into lava. It seems to be just quite random blobs of lava all across the whole thing, regardless of what texture is underneath. Which obviously works because it looks good, but it's not my style. That's how it's looking around the back so far. Nice and lavary. Everyone says that figure reminds me of the Lizard Men War Machine. Yeah, it is kind of a similar design on the back. Vaguely Aztec looking, I suppose, isn't it? Graham is putting together a demon model. Arms still missing, but replaced with tentacles. Well, you can't go wrong with extra tentacles, can you? If I lost an arm, I would hope that I would be deemed worthy of sprouting a tentacle in its place. Just because I move on from a particular area doesn't mean I'm not going back there. I'm just working around whenever I spot a crevice. I'm heading in there. And then I'll keep going round and round the miniature until I'm satisfied that everything that should be filled has been. I'm hoping that we'll finish all these white lines today, but it depends how carried away I get. And like I said, I'm not worried about making mistakes on the black, because that is easily going to be fixed later. Graham's talking about a cybernetic tentacle replacement with a working prototype. That would be cool. Prosthetic limbs, obviously, have still got a way to go in being perfect. But you do see some really crazy technology nowadays. Seems like it would be preferable, if you had to choose to lose an arm or a leg, that a leg's function is more easily replaced. Because obviously the dexterous nature of the work the hand can do probably more difficult to replicate. This is the kind of discussion we want to be having on these painting videos. Read this, how many different golds did you use on the Howdah? Well, the Howdah isn't even painted yet. So there's only one gold on there at the moment. It probably looks good because of the shadows on it at the moment, but it's just glorious gold on there right now. So after I've done all the rock, because the rock's going to involve some dry brushing, and I don't want that to mess with the finished gold, so I'm going to be doing the gold after the rock. It's going to be Reekland Flesh Shade onto all the gold, and then it's going to be glorious gold again onto all the kind of raised or big flat areas. Then it's going to be polished gold, which is this one, the edge highlights, and then it's going to be silver for the corner highlights and for any shine areas. So for instance, I would probably pick a spot and say, okay, this bit here is going to be shiny, and then get some silver in all the way down here, all the way onto this bit, all the way down there. So that's how it's going to go. Nearly used up all the white that was already on the palette, so I'm going to have to get some more out soon. But you can already see how the wet palette is immediately saving paint. So long term, probably going to save me money. Normally, all the paint you pour out is going to dry up, and that's it. Next time you want to use that colour, it's gone. Owen's gold highlight colour is called Shiny. Well, on my Stormcast Eternals, I used this old classic Shining Gold as the edge highlight, but there's not much left in it because it's so old and I've used it a lot over the years. So that's why I invested in not only polished gold, but I also got this model colour gold as well, which is called Gold, apparently. And on the website it looked very different to polished gold. It looked much lighter, so I was thinking of using this as an even greater highlight. But on the model, when you just take it out the bottle at all, it looks very similar. So I wouldn't recommend getting those two colours and expecting one of them to highlight the other. So, time to get out some more white. Let's just check something on the old social media first. It seems like I've been bombarded with messages in the last few minutes. Let's see here. So I'm already not happy with some of the lines I've drawn on this thing, like the face there. Some of those lines are a bit too long and straight, I think. So I'm going to go over some of those in black at the end. Because there's just too much going on in that one spot. YouTube's editing system for taking snippets out of the video and removing them is much easier than it used to be. Although really, does anyone even watch these videos after they've been broadcast? It's very much a live experience. If you're not able to interact with it, I don't think it's going to be that riveting, really. Just brushing off the brush a little bit here. Don't want to get too much dry paint embedded in it. The good thing about this technique as well is that you can choose where the attention is going to be drawn to. So if there are any areas that were maybe filled in with green stuff, and you don't want to draw attention to those joins that might be slightly visible, you just don't paint them in, and the eye will not go there. Well, I don't think you have to worry about that, Brad, because there ain't no music playing. I'm not a fan of people playing music on their streams. That's why I don't like watching people painting on Twitch, because you can get away with a lot more music on there. So people tend to do it, and you can't really hear what they're saying. So it's not something I'm going to be doing. And it also relies on their music taste not being horrendous as well, which is always very subjective. Not all of us listen to legendary musicians like Steven Seagal. But I've tried getting rid of most of the delay on the video by switching a few settings around. I'm not sure how big the delay is right now. So I was finding it annoying that people would be commenting on things that happened 3 minutes ago. So I've fiddled with a few things, and I think I've got it way down from there now. It's different when streaming game footage though, because if you try and have it too close to real time, then it can cause some issues. It's good to know that some people do watch when it's not live, even though you don't get the full experience of being able to interact and give me outrageous painting tips. Just on a crevice hunt at the moment. I've done lots of the main lines. There's just a lot more. It's just deciding when to stop. Because you can see, obviously, it looks ridiculous at the moment with all these white lines splattered all over it. But the colour difference is very stark. When it's yellow and then I've dry brushed onto the black, it's going to be drastically different to that. In fact, I can bring up a picture of some of my lava-based stuff. Let's have a look what I can show you here. Let's grab some lesser obsidian golem pictures, perhaps. Let's see, what have we got here? Okay, let's show you that. So you can see the lava, it's not all over the place. And this is how the rock is going to look when it's finished. And there's a close-up of one of them. So you can see it's darker and deeper in the recess because I'm using a shade in there. And then there's some on the big guys. Well, you can't see much from him on the front because a lot of his lava veins are on the back. And his are quite deep recesses as well, so you can't actually see them all from specific angles. But you get the idea. That's how it's going to look when it's finished. There's going to be some serious hardcore dry brushing going on onto the rock, and then there's going to be Nuln oil applied onto those dry brushes to tone them down and tie it all together nicely onto the rock. So it's not a very long process. This is probably the longest stage here, doing the white lines and then fixing them after the yellow shade is applied in there. So let's press on. It's not even specifically looking for really deep crevices now, it's just wherever I think there isn't any lava, I'm looking and seeing if there's a crevice that I can justify painting. Because I want it to look kind of random and all over the place, but I want it to be in every part of the model. So if there's anywhere that's a bit low on crevices, I'll just have to use whatever's available. And like I also said earlier, there's too many at the end, they can easily be removed just by painting black over them again. So I'm not going to get too carried away and with disappointment if I've made some mistakes and gone into some areas I didn't mean to. Does anyone watch any wargaming Twitch channels? I don't really watch anything on Twitch at all. I am 100% YouTube. I know a lot of people use it for painting streams. I don't think there's too much more to be done on these now. Crevice is not too many more that need out. We've got some pretty nice overall coverage here. Just doing a few bits on the inside of the legs as well, just for the times when people can actually see those angles, but not too much. Not going over the top on the parts that people will never see. You never know, it might be someone's favourite model that they've ever seen in their life, and they just want to take all kinds of pictures of it, and take pictures of its butt cheeks, and expose the fact that there's a bit of paint missing under there. And it would be like telling them Santa isn't real. Almost done. And we can let this dry before the yellow shade comes into play. I've actually just spotted a bit I need to pick out in black because there's still some gold spray on it on the inside of one of the feet, which is visible only from a very specific angle. So it wouldn't really matter if I left it, but for my own sanity, it must be picked out. I'm very close to the point where I'm just going to say, okay, that's enough of this now. Because you can keep doing this forever because there are so many wrinkles. Everywhere you look, you can find a new one, but I did point out it's not about picking out every single one because that's going to be too much. Not going to have the desired effect. So you just have to decide when is the sweet spot. When do you stop? And I'm rapidly approaching that point. Okay, I think we're looking pretty good now. Is there anything on this leg I can do? It looks a little bit bare in that one tiny spot there. Is there anything between the toes now that could be done? Anything in that whole kind of toe-based region? I don't think so. Maybe a little bit around this ankle area here. Okay. Oh, one tiny bit more. Okay, I'm going to call that done for the lava lines for the moment. Unless I spot anything that's really nice that I need to sink the brush into. So now, because I spotted that bit that needed some black on it, I'm going to do that quick. Okay, where is it? Still got some black on the wet palette here. allegedly. I think this black on here has been there for a while and it's separated a bit, so I'm going to pour some fresh black out. Just to finish off that bit under there. Anywhere else? Yeah, there we go, back there. Lovely. So Brad says, do you do much in the way of sculpting? I felt that Shadow Hulk came out pretty well. Not much. Usually if I'm going to sculpt something, it's to cover up the gaps where I've just reposed something else. Or where there's a part that didn't quite match up nicely to the spot it's sitting in. And I'll show you an example of that right now. So, the Shadow Hulk. You can see that here, this tentacle doesn't quite reach where I needed it to. So that is green stuff there. And with the paint on it, you can actually see there's not much detail on the green stuff. But I've tried to make it blend in as much as possible with the tentacle. And then when I paint it and highlight it, then I'll be able to put little blobs at even intervals so it looks kind of like the more textured part as well. So little bits of sculpting like that. And on the grotesques, some of the shoulder joints. It's the same for some of my trolls that I've done as well. Basically resculpted the entire shoulder area to reposition the arms. So really just to fill in what was there already and I hacked away, or to continue a piece that's already set. I can't think of many things that I've just sculpted completely from scratch into an original thing. Only really simple things, maybe. I did some beehives for a Warhammer Halfling army, but they were just like circles of green stuff piled on top of each other. There's nothing really fancy about those at all. I'm not really a sculptor. I haven't tried to sculpt a face or anything that wasn't already there and I was just repairing. Okay, let's allow him to dry for a bit before we move on to the yellow. What else do we want to do? I suppose actually, while it's drying, we could apply some more silver to these bits up here. It's still looking quite gold in the background there. I think the silver may have been slightly watered down too much on the wet palette as well, which can cause it to thin out even more. It's just going to require coats. This silver does normally go onto the gold a lot easier, but then again, I'm not normally painting such huge, vast surfaces as this either. This Hellfane is certainly a unique monstrosity. Okay. So maybe we can think about the Night Stalker bases a bit now, because obviously that's going to be something I want to do soon, because I've got my 2 Dreadfiends completed. They just need a base to sit on each. And that would clear them off the table and free up my custom painting handles, which are just spray paint lids. So these guys need bases. And the options are, so the ideas I was having, I'm not sure which of these I actually discussed previously, but one thing that I came up with was to surround each unit with a cube, but that cube would be made of two-way mirror material. So from the outside, you would be able to see into the cube, but then theoretically, whichever side you look in from, on all the other sides, you would just see reflections of the hideous monster inside. That's the theory, so you could still see what was inside the unit. You just wouldn't be able to see out the other side. You would just see reflections, which would look really weird and bizarre. But I'm not sure how easy it would be to get the kind of material in the specific sizes to do that. Sounds like it would be very tricky, and of course the models in the unit can't overhang the edge of the base at all, or that's not going to work. Other options. Breaking up some kind of reflective surface and angling them in the ground somehow to create weird effects. Slime pits painted over broken up reflective surfaces that are embedded in the base to make reflective slimy pits of doom. Trying to replicate the look of a bottomless pit on a base. Lots of crazy ideas running around inside my brain at the moment. It's just difficult to visualize how they're going to look because I haven't got any inspiration to go from for most of them, really. No one else has done anything quite so zany. I have seen some really zany Night Stalker bases. There's, of course, the wonderful eyeball bases that people will have seen on the various Kings of War Facebook groups. And I was thinking just totally ripping that off, but using noses instead. But I thought, you know what? I want to do something original this time. I want to do something really weird and wacky. I've seen people use mirrors before. I've seen a procession of clowns walking through a hall of mirrors, but that has the issue of from one side of the unit, you just can't see anything that's going on in there. As far as I could tell, anyway. Whereas with two-way mirrors, where you can see through one side but not the other, you could make a really weird effect where you can see inside but not out. So here's a base for one of the Dreadfiends. Do I just make some milliput, splodge milliput all over there, embed things into the milliput, like reflective surfaces, make little pools in it, paint them in slime, and just stand the guys on it? Or do I go some really weird abstract thing? Another idea I had was possibly putting the miniatures upside down on their bases, so that it's like they were walking on nothing in the air. Either using a clear bit of plastic above them to stick them to, or just like pinning their head to the ground, so they're all upside down, or they're all sideways, or in a unit, some of them are standing upside down, some of them are the right way up. All kinds of weird stuff, because they are Night Stalkers, they're supposed to be hideous, nightmarish, bizarre creations. And so many ideas, but can't use all of them. Nor would I probably want to, because some of them are maybe a bit too out there. I think upside down would be pushing it a bit, because for a start you'd be able to see the bottom of the feet, which are completely flat, which would be bad, which could be avoided, but it would also be difficult to see what the unit was, possibly from above, which is where you see most units from when you're playing. In front and above are the two main areas there. So that could get confusing on the table, potentially. Be interested to hear what the audience thinks about the basing for the Night Stalkers. As far as the Abyssal Dwarves go, after the Hellfane's done, I don't think there's going to be too much more added to that army anytime soon. Let's just put the lid on this pallet now while we're waiting for things to dry. We don't need that to dry out as well. So, after the Hellfane, I don't think anything else needs to be added imminently. I do have... Where are they hiding? I do have this box of Black Souls / Decimators, but I'm not sure whether I am going to build them up imminently or save them for a little while in the future because they're not urgently needed right now, especially when I've got other army and other game projects potentially on the go. That's not something that's going to be used right now because I've already got plenty of Abyssal Dwarves to be getting on with. So that'll be pretty much a complete army then. In the future, would I look to add more things to it? If the rules don't change, there are certain units that are considered to be very strong right now. Grotesques are one of them. So would I consider purchasing more Grotesques in the future? I would definitely consider it because they're very tasty in the game, but it depends because I don't need to be spamming lots of the same unit. They are fairly expensive as well, so I'd only want to buy them if I knew I was going to use them a lot. And I've already got lots of golems. And when I say lots, there are some people that have even more golems than I do. I would eventually get another golem horde, possibly, because I've got this guy, the Charnox, who I haven't worked on yet, because I'm not in any rush to play Vanguard anytime soon, and there's no unit for me to put him in right now. I don't think he would fit in the middle of one of my other golem units at the moment. Graham says one-way mirror material is available on a flexible roll that you can apply to glass or perspex. Okay, that makes it slightly more interesting. And I could try some sample bases. I could make something like that, but that would require, if I was going to buy the parts for that, I would probably want to buy them in kind of a bulk order. So I could look into it, because I'm sure there are companies that could cut out some nice clear plastic for me into the right sizes, which I could then stick together and apply that material to them. So it would have like a cube. It wouldn't be a perfect cube because these guys are quite tall, with these guys standing in the middle. And that would be something to test out, I think. I would still have to decorate the bottom of the base as well, but I could do some kind of weird patterns which would look really, really weird and trippy, if you will, in the mirrors, rather than traditional terrain basing. Something really bizarre, some kind of like magic eye type look, like hypnotic kind of stuff. I think that would be potentially very interesting, so I'll look into that. It would be something totally different for my armies, and that's what I'm looking for at the moment. I could try out a few different things, make some different stuff. I do want slime to be featured as well, so I'm thinking on the base some kind of bizarre pattern, maybe black and white, but maybe that's a bit too weird and out there, but some kind of pattern, and then within that pattern like cracks within the earth that are revealing bubbling, oozing green slime coming out of it, and then the mirrors. Because I've gone for the oozing slime as a theme for this army, because it's already oozing out of all their mouths. So having it oozing out the bases as well could be good. Steve likes the oozy mirror bases idea. Maybe use those boils you made for the giant. Potentially the Earth could look like some weird nightmare-scape, disease-fest landscape. Graham says, I once used it on the back windows of a van. Trouble is, you would have to light the inside of the box so you can see in from outside. Yeah, that would potentially be an issue. I'm not sure about adding light effects to any of my stuff just yet. I'm not sure. That's something I want to experiment with at the moment. But bizarre kind of floor tiles kind of look with slime oozing through, with some kind of reflective motif going on, I think would be very interesting. Maybe the kind of bizarre floor tiles, kind of like something that you would have in Beetlejuice, for example. Some kind of floor tiles with some hole in it or other. The hole has a reflective surface inside it, which then has slime oozing out of it. It's got potential. So let's get a pencil here, and let's just draw on this base how it would look. So we'd have like a cracked bit there, like it's fracturing off to the sides as well. And you would have like slime inside there. Let's see, can you actually see what I'm doing here? Okay, from that angle you can a little bit. Let's turn this light on, see if that helps. Not really. Okay, I'm going to have to do it a bit stronger then. So you'd have some kind of crack in the earth, like that. And then the rest of it, you'd have like floor tiles of some kind. Or just any kind of ground, but like this kind of weird pattern. I say weird, you can't really get more plain than this pattern, really, can you? But it would be weird in terms of a base to be put on a battlefield, with a crack in it that's then oozing the slime out over the sides. How does that sound? I think there's potential in that idea. And then you would have the dude stood there, maybe he would have 1 foot even in the slime. Potential. We'll put it in the maybe pile. And the maybe pile is there, apparently. So, let's see if Mr. Hellfane is dry yet. What do you think? Let's see. Yeah, the white's looking pretty dry to me. So I think we can go in there with the yellow now. And then if there's any more I want to pick out at the end, it's easy to do that. Let's find a nice brush for this job. We don't want it to be too fat because I would like to avoid, where possible, getting too much of the yellow onto the black, because it does leave a weird kind of residue in there. So how about this brush? I'm going to actually clip some of the bristles off this one because it's getting a bit out of control. And that's how I keep my brushes in line. If a bristle steps out of line, you just chop it down and the other bristles will see that and they'll make sure that they don't step out of line, because they know what's going to happen to them. Deaving says, what about Rem's save last night? That was quite a nice performance on Vermintide from Mr. Remington last night, when he was faced with about 8 storm vermin and a packmaster and managed to fight them off after everyone else was dead. It's about time he started pulling his weight. Just yellowing up these white bits now. And some of them might require more yellow to be put in there if the colour's not strong enough. And occasionally, after it's been varnished, some of the shade will get eaten a bit, in which case I'll just put more on after the varnish. So, there's that side looking kind of lava-y at the moment. Obviously, nowhere near done because we haven't even painted the rock yet. So it's not really reflective of how it's going to look when it's finished. But this is the stage where it starts to feel like we're actually making progress. And the motivational juices start to flow. And I think, you know what, this is starting to come together now. And I just feel like painting it more and more. And it's good when you have a stage like that quite early in the model where it transforms it from looking nowhere near done to suddenly, hey, we're actually making progress here. If that stage doesn't come until late, then it can be quite difficult to get motivated. I find, at least. Sometimes it's just one big transformative moment quite late on in the painting process. So we're definitely getting there. My patented lava effect. I can't confirm or deny whether anyone else uses this effect because I haven't really asked them. The next step after the yellow is going to be to fix all the black, where the white or the yellow strayed onto it. And then there's going to be some dry brushing going on. And because we only painted in crevices with the lava, dry brushing, as long as it's not too much of a heavy pressed in dry brush, just do quite a light one, then it won't interfere with any of the lava veins. model and immediately spot. I haven't put together any Abyssal Dwarf army lists that actually feature a Hellfane yet. It has some good synergies with certain units that I don't really use or own. Some of the infantry units, I don't have a lot of them. It seems like it would be a good fit alongside them. But of course I do have the option of running this as a Greater Obsidian Golem as well if I want to use 2 of those at once. And even if I never use it, I would still be pleased to own it. And even if the rules aren't particularly to your liking at the time, you should just buy whatever looks cool, because eventually the rules are going to change for it. If they realise that people aren't using it, then they're going to want to spice up its rules a bit, especially if it's a nice big expensive model like this. You would think that they would make it more competitive if it's deemed not to be. So just buy what's cool and then wait if you really don't feel like you can use it. I don't think the Hellfane is at all unusable. It's just not necessarily the best synergistic matchup for the other units I have. Almost done with the veins now, unless I decide to add any more later, which is definitely a possibility. Looking for any stray bits of white now that I've missed and haven't gone in there and yellowed up. I've just found a few. How do we think it's looking so far then? Obviously there's work to be done on the rocks next, which I think we will do tomorrow. That should be exciting. For anyone who's ever wondered about my Abyssal Dwarf rock painting technique. There's something actually stuck in there. Is it a little bit of hair or something? Hmm. Okay. Any other bits of white that are hiding from me? To all to be nice and yellow. And then I will give it the full rotation for the camera.